PPF versus EPF, which is better for business owners and employees. So let's start with employees. If you're employed with a certain company, when we're talking about PF or EPF, it is a mandatory or statutory deduction which anyways happens. The great thing about PF or EPF is that whatever contribution you make, which is about 12.5% of your basic salary, the same contribution the business you're working for also makes. Both the amount actually gets invested into your total PF, and this money is currently growing at the last rate of interest on this was 8.5%, which is the highest interest on any debt instrument that I know which is backed by the government. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there is any other instrument which gives you 8.5% backed by the government and is also tax-free from that perspective. Here is what changed. The government, the finance ministry, said that there is a problem going to be there on this. Any more money than 2.5 lakhs that you contribute towards this, which means if your salary is somewhere between more than 1.73 lakhs, any contribution that you make, that sort of money, anything more than that will be fully taxable now, which means that you cannot invest in this ideally more than 2.5 lakhs. Otherwise, the benefit will completely go. There's no point of having that benefit, or it won't be beneficial for you to do so in the first place. So what should business employees do from that perspective? So one thing is simply that do not just invest in EPF if you want to invest for the long term. Diversify into other PPF or other debt instruments which are for long term. Now I'm only talking about that aspect which is long term for you, because all of these instruments are for the long term, because PPF is 15 years and EPF is 58 years or at your retirement time. So in most cases this is long term investments, because anything more than 5 years you can consider that as a long term investment. So if you remember one more important thing, so you can categorize it mentally, there are 4 different types of investments that you can do in debt. There is a liquid, which is mostly liquid funds or similar instruments. Then there is short, medium and long. Short is about 1 to 3 years. Medium is about 3 to 5 years. Anything more than 5 is long-term in debt. So both these instruments are predominantly long-term in debt. First, you need to know how much money you should allocate into these sort of instruments. Being an employee, anyways, automatically your deduction happens. You should ideally in that scenario even use VPF if you have to, but do not cross 2.5 lakh limit. If you do that, you are going to be in a losing situation. In that scenario, if this is happening, better to invest into PPF for the longer term. Okay. Now let's talk about business owners. The same advice predominantly is there for business owners. A lot of business owners do not know that they can even use PF for themselves as well, as long as they're salaried with the business. So I believe 8.5%, which currently has not been revised, is the best interest possible. And this is something they should use for their long-term investments into debt. But again, ensure if your money is more than 2.5 lakhs of contribution in this, then you are going to lose, because it will not be worthwhile. In that sense, again, do the same thing as what the employees are having to do, shift into some part of PPF. So first priority should be PF, which is EPF, because there your business, even especially for the business owner, the tax of the business is also reducing. Think about it. If you are having more retained profits in the business, in that sense, you're having to pay more taxes. You anyways are looking at ways through which you can reduce your taxation and making more profits from the business without having to pay full taxes legally. This is that one method. Because your business profits reduce, they become a part of your wealth portfolio, and this is also growing at the fastest pace. So for business owners, PF is a beauty. It is one of the best instruments that you can invest in, but now there is a cap of 2.5 lakh of total contribution. My suggestion is that only for your long-term investments, okay? Long-term debt, only that category is where you should contribute, and then calculate if this is the allocation of long-term debt for you, for example, 1 crore. So you work towards building that 1 crore. And to build that 1 crore, try to go for 2.5 lakh. So that is the objective of PF. For business owners, this is the best thing. And even for employees. But ensure this, you seal yourself at 2.5 lakhs. If you don't do it, you are going to be in a losing position. All of this money is going to be accumulated until the point where your 58 age happens, and then you can withdraw that money. So that is something we can do. Okay, you can also cap PF contribution. If you can, nothing better than that. So that is something we need to do. Ensure we cap it at 2.5 lakhs, whichever way, by reducing your basic salary or by capping it if there is a way to do so, any sorts, but this has to be done. Okay. So just a bottom line is PF is better than PPF in my opinion. because the rate of interest is high and it is a special attraction, especially for business owners. Okay, so it's a special thing. However, just ensure that you do not cross that limit. And if you still have some sort of money left in your ATC, then that money should go into PPF. Although all of this money should always be comparable to the goal of long-term debt only amongst the four categories: liquid, short, medium, and long. In the long term, whatever allocation that you set for yourself, you should just be looking to achieve that goal, and after that stop your contribution, because then you're unnecessarily blocking your money, which can create passive income for you now, and you're deferring it for 10 years, 15 years. That's something you should not do. Okay, so I hope you're able to understand we are doing this mathematically, not because the highest rate of interest is there, but you're also losing on present opportunity to create passive income for yourself. That is what I'm saying.